Hi, I'm Greg Hunter. This is the weekly news wrap up. WNW 181 for Friday the 13th, 2015. That's right, March 13th, 2015. Well, first story is about the ratcheting up of war talk and war preparations in Ukraine. The U.S. is sending more military hardware there in terms of drones and Humvees, about $75 million worth reportedly. Also, the U.S. is pushing the EU for more sanctions against Russia. The Russians, according to Zero Hedge on the other side of the aisle, are saying that, hey, listen, we're contemplating deploying nuclear weapons in Crimea. Of course, officially, Russia says that it has, quote, no plans to do so, end quote. But, this game and the talk and the actions are not leading towards peace. They're leading towards a wider war. And that's what Germany is fearful of, a wider war in Eastern Europe. That's in their backyard. And no wonder why they're fearful. You have the NATO General Philip Breedlove, the commander of NATO, saying things like, quote, what is clear right now, it's not getting better, it's getting worse every day, end quote. And Germany doesn't feel that way. They're trying to de-escalate this. They're trying to tamp this down, defuse this. And it's also reported that Germany thinks that NATO is engaging in, quote, dangerous propaganda, end quote. Now, there's also talk by some people in Europe about forming a European army. And UK MEP, Member of Parliament, Nigel Farage, blew that out of the water, threw cold water all over it, said we don't need a European army, we're tired of the conflict, we don't need this. And they don't. I don't think they can afford it. The European economy is doing terrible. Even Germany isn't doing so hot, and they're the supposed engine of the EU, the economic engine. Next story, it's reported an Iranian general and 10,000 so-called volunteers are about 6 miles from the Iranian border near the disputed Golan Heights area. So far, no battles broken out, but these volunteers showed up in armored vehicles, and this may be a preparation for the response that that Iran said it was going to directly attack Israel. It said that 3 or 4 weeks ago after the Israelis made an airstrike and killed an Iranian general. Near the border. Of course, they don't send a general by themselves. Otherwise, generals command people. So they did kill a Iranian general, and the Iranians are upset about it. And there's no battle yet, but that's an awful big force of people just to sit there on idle. Meanwhile, the leaders of the military, insurgency, but the military battle to take back Tikrit, which are the Iranians. The Iranians are leading the way to take back Tikrit, and they have entered the city, supposedly. Looks like Tikrit's going to fall, and the next stop is going to be Mosul, and Iran is basically running the show in Iraq. Not the Americans. There are no U.S. soldiers supposedly doing this. There might be some sorties being flown, but the Iranians are taking back Iraq. And what's going to happen after they take back Iraq? Are they just going to leave? On the other end, up in Syria, some people are saying that basically Syria is already under the control of Iran, that Assad is just a puppet. And this is why countries like Saudi Arabia have been saying, hey, listen, we think you're giving Iraq to Iran. It's one country south of Iraq, Saudi Arabia is, and maybe it's no small wonder why that Saudi Arabia was the biggest importer of conventional weapons in the entire world in 2014, followed by India, and after that followed by China. Consequently, the biggest exporters of conventional weapons are the U.S. and Russia. Go figure. 47 GOP senators sent a letter to Iran warning them that any nuclear deal in the Senate, if not approved by the Senate, would be illegal and it could be canceled by the next president, especially if it was a Republican president. And listen, I think that the Republicans made a huge tactical mistake here. They should have done that. I think it was, and the president was upset by this, and I think he has actually rightly so to be upset. They sent a letter to Iran telling them that don't sign a bad deal, that if we don't get a good deal, we're just going to cancel it anyway. And I think they should have sent this letter to the president first, they would have gotten Democrats to sign on to it and said, "Hey, we need to approve this. This is the constitutional, procedure that the Senate approves all treaties. This certainly is a treaty. It's very important. It's a nuclear arms treaty to curtail their nuclear weapons program or a nuclear program, and you need to run that by us." Now, if and when Obama said, blew them off, then they could send a letter to Iran. But I think they should have sent it to the president first. I really do. They would have gotten Democrats involved, and they wouldn't have looked so partisan. And I'm sure if they would have sent the letter just to Iran, not every Republican signed off on this letter either. But I know why they're upset, and I know why they're fearful, because, the president, after more than 20 times saying that he wasn't an emperor and he couldn't make these illegal immigrants legal, and then shazam, he makes 5 million illegal immigrants legal, and they can reportedly get up to $35,000 each in back pay and, aid and, earned income tax credits, even though they didn't pay taxes. So that's why they're doing this, because the president has done unconstitutional things before, and they're afraid he's going to do an unconstitutional deal with Iran and not get it approved by the Senate. But I think they should have sent the president the letter first. Hillary Clinton is, I think she's in big trouble over this email thing. I mean, she comes out and here's her excuse. She says, it's just a convenience. I didn't want to carry two devices. So you install a server in your home. It was hacked, and so that's why they found this out. You are the Secretary of State. You run into all kinds of state secrets. Are you telling me there wasn't a single state secret at your home on your personal server? You used that? Now, some people say it wasn't convenience. I think it's because she wanted to hide what she was doing as Secretary of State. If she did anything wrong, she wanted to be accountable for it. She didn't want anybody to see, what went on. So she installed a server in her house from day one. Listen, I think she's in trouble over this. And I think the Democrats are even saying, Dianne Feinstein saying, "Hey, Hillary, step up." So she gives this press conference at the United Nations thinking that, that they were going to be easy on her. It was a good venue for her. Well, it wasn't. They weren't so easy on her. They asked her a lot of hard questions. It went terrible. It was like throwing gasoline on a raging fire. And I got to tell you that, when the AP sues the State Department over Hillary Clinton's emails, and they on a FOIA request suing them, and then the AP runs a story. Look at these pictures of her. Here's an AP story, and they're running these. Do you think any of those pictures are flattering to Hillary Clinton? Do you think this mess is one least bit flattering to her at all? I think the idea that she wanted this out of convenience, given her track record, is absurd. That really what she wanted to do is be opaque. She wanted to hide what she was doing. She wanted to answer anybody. She's above the law. Everybody else in her department had to use government servers. After all, they protect against hackers, and they have security, and they're always running tests and always running the system to make sure nobody breaks into it. But she has a server in her house. I think that's just really tough. And as I said last week, at some point the Democrats are going to, enough. We've had enough. We don't care if she's a front runner or not. We're done. And I think this hurts her. I think this hurts the Democrats. They got to be freaking out about this. A little economic news. Of course, the headline, this is crammed down our throats. This is the front page USA Today. Now healthy banks gush with cash. The banks are so healthy, they're gushing with cash. They're gushing. I don't believe it. They had a stress test, and the American banks did great. Deutsche Bank and Banco Santander, I think, didn't do very well, but they did great, fantastic. Really, I believe they'll be doing great when they stop the phony accounting. You do realize that since 2009, they can mark all their assets, mark to fantasy. They can whatever they think they'll sell them for in the future. They can hold them on their books for that instead of mark to market. What is it worth today? That's what the IRS does when they value assets, mark to market. When they do away with that, and when they stop the 0% interest rates, and when they stop, the too big to fail mantra and let some of these guys fail, then I will believe the banks are healthy. And then on top of that, and I don't want to go too deep into this, but we just had the third month in a row of retail sales down. Third month in a row. economy getting better? Really? We got what? I don't know, 4 years of, nearly 4 years of what, above 46 million people on food stamps? I've talked to you about this. And Gregory Mannarino at traderschoice.net, I talked to him today about what was coming up with this Fed meeting. He says, whoa, keep your eyes on the Fed meeting next week, the Federal Reserve's meeting, and it's all going to hinge on one word, patient. Remember Fed head Janet Yellen not too many months back saying we're going to be patient when in terms of raising interest rates. Boom, off to the races. The market takes off like crazy. We're going to be patient. Mannarino says, listen, if they remove that word, that one word, patient, they remove that word, look out below. Boom, the market's going to crash. If they leave that word in, boom, the market's going to vault higher. So keep an eye on next week's Fed meeting and what they say after the meeting about interest rates. Are they going to be patient or are they going to be remove that word? We shall see. Thank you very much for supporting USA Watchdog with your comments and donations. That's the way I see it. I'm Greg Hunter. Fear not. Prepare yourself mentally, physically, and spiritually.